Good day, Diocese of Olympia. It's hard to believe we've made another trip around the sun, and we are here with the season of Lent knocking at our door. But that is exactly where we find ourselves. What that has come to mean in the last 6 years is a Lenten book selection by me. When this all began, the selection was purely mine to make, with very little input. What has happened in the last several years, which I'm so thankful for, and which was the hope when all of this started, is the many suggestions I get from you. What that has done for me is make this a much more difficult time of year. There are this year, as in years past, so many books that deserve to be in this spot. I will post some of those so you might have a choice of books which are wide-ranging and cover many areas. This year, I've selected a book that was first suggested to me by the Reverend Stephen Moore. It had an interesting title and Stephen's imprimatur, so I decided to give it a try. The book is entitled The Dave Test, a raw look at real faith in hard times, by Frederick W. Schmidt. This is what some of the reviews say about this book. First of all, life is raw. So is the language in this book. What is the Dave Test? When life is at its tattered edges and you are faced with seemingly impossible decisions, the Dave Test is a set of searingly honest questions you ask to become the best, most honest self for you, your friends, and your family. Instead of resorting to stained glass language or offering false hope, do yourself a favor and pick up this book. Take the Dave Test. What personally moved me in this book was its great honesty and its challenge for all of us to get beyond the old, tattered, and tired responses we as Christians sometimes give in crisis. Responses and pastoral messages that say a lot about our theology, and most of it doesn't match what we profess to believe about how our God relates to us and how we are called to live in this world with one another. Here are what a couple of authors say about the book. Mike Stabland, author of A Force of Will, says, "We've all been both victims and perpetrators of it, the hurtful bit of spiritual sunshine that is foisted upon a suffering soul. In the Dave Test, Fred Schmidt shows us a better way to be, honest, empathetic, vulnerable, earnest, earthy, substantial, and refreshingly uncertain. It's a beautiful vision for a helpful life." Phyllis Tickle says this about it. In this book, find Fred Schmidt's singular ability to translate chronicles of loss and pain into a sanctioned call for honesty about faith as it is lived and as it is allowed to mature in us. And my good friend and fellow parishioner, Greg Garrett, author of Stories from the Edge, A Theology of Grief, and The Other Jesus, writes, "The Dave Test is a true and beautifully written book about that most important of questions. What do we do when everything falls apart for us or those we love?" Frederick W. Schmidt holds the Reuben P. Job Chair in Spiritual Formation and directs the Reuben P. Job Institute for Spiritual Formation at Garrett Evangelical Theological Seminary in Evanston, Illinois. An Episcopal priest himself, spiritual director, and retreat leader, he is the author of 7 books, including When Suffering Persists and What God Wants for Your Life. He also writes and blogs, and we will put that link on this video for you. In this season, in our common life as a diocese, when we have focused especially on those outside our walls, I found this book especially instructive. We are often criticized for our shallow understanding of our own faith and beliefs, and how our actions and even what we often say in response to disaster or death to be inconsistent and unexamined. I believe this book will give you a mirror to look into and challenge some of that, a good Lenten discipline. So I invite you to read it with me and with your fellow Episcopalians in Olympia. It will be available at St. Mark's Cathedral Bookstore, the Episcopal Bookstore in Seattle, and through Amazon.com. As Epiphany winds its way to an end and Ash Wednesday approaches, and our collective faith journey moves on, I wish you every blessing.